Selection Sunday is behind us and March Madness is ahead of us. And there's 8 teams from the Big 12 Conference going dancing here in just a couple days. And we're going to have you covered in this episode of Mountaineer Moment with all things Big 12 and March Madness, all 8 of these teams covering their paths and what it might look like. Are there true title contenders in the Big 12? We got you covered here in this episode 167 of Mountaineer Moment. Stick around. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Mountaineer Moment, episode 167. My name is Troy, and this is your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball, and sometimes some special edition episodes, man. It's March Madness. It's here. And as much as we wish our Mountaineers were competing this year in March Madness, they are not. And there's 8 teams from the Big 12. And so if you're a listener, watcher, viewer here on YouTube, that's been with us, we talk about West Virginia basketball all season long. And we've seen all of these teams that the 8 teams that are representing the Big 12 in the NCAA tournament. And I just wanted to produce an episode. So if you're new and you follow one of these teams that's made the tournament, I'm going to talk about your team here. What I know about them, you can help me out in the comments if I'm missing something that you want to point out. If you're a fan of Arizona or BYU or Texas Tech and so on. But just from a West Virginia fan's perspective here, if you're new here, I'm going to give my thoughts on these teams. Just preview and predictions, some of their paths and what that might look like. And, probably by Thursday afternoon, some of these paths will be destroyed because it's March Madness, appropriately named for a reason. So we're going to get into all 8 of these teams. So if you're like, I'm not a West Virginia fan, that's okay. Because all 8 of these teams will be covered in some way, shape, or form in this episode of Mountaineer Moment. I'm glad you're here. Would love for you to hit that subscribe button for us as we continue to grow this Mountaineer Moment community. Also want to let you know, we talked about this in the previous episode, talking about head coach Ross Hodge for the Mountaineers, and a bit of a report card episode. So if you haven't watched that one, you can go check out that one. It's the one previous to this one. But in that episode, we talked about, we got Mountaineer Moment t-shirts, folks. All right. Yeah, that's right. Mountaineer Moment t-shirts. I'm holding one up right now on YouTube. You can see it. You can see it right now. And Mountaineer Moment t-shirts, I'm going to tell you how you can get one. So we might already be at that number, but I'll let you know when you email me. But on the last episode, I said the first 5 people to email me will be receiving a Mountaineer Moment t-shirt directly sent to your address for just $10. Okay, $10, a really high quality t-shirt. I just got one myself, the one I was holding up on YouTube. You can see it's got the Mountaineer Moment logo on it. It's got my face on it because that's part of that Mountaineer Moment logo. But all you got to do is to be one of the first 5 people to reach out and just say, hey, I want a t-shirt. And you can tell me what size, give me your address that I can ship it to, and then I'll tell you how you can Venmo me or Zelle me that $10. Obviously, a great deal. T-shirts aren't $10 no more, and this is a high-quality T-shirt, so I don't think you'll be disappointed. But there's a couple options of T-shirts. One with the regular Mountaineer Moment logo with my face on it. 2 is Mountaineer Moment logo without my face on it, so you can indicate that in the email. I won't be offended if you don't want my face on it. I completely understand. If you're a listener to this episode, then maybe you're choosing that because you don't want to look at my face on YouTube. And again, I completely understand that. So email me, mountaineermoment@gmail.com, your size shirt, what kind of shirt you want, your address, and I will be sure to get that to you if you're one of the first 5 to do it. If not, I'll email you back and let you know how you can get a t-shirt as well. Not the most ridiculously priced thing ever. Not really making money off this thing. Just want to continue to spread the Mountaineer Moment word through this Mountaineer Moment community that continues to grow. So that's the deal there. Now, let's talk March Madness. Again, if you're a West Virginia fan or if you're just a Big 12 fan or a fan of one of these teams specifically, we're going to talk about all 8 of these teams that are in the Big Dance. So real quick, where they're at and just the seed lines that they're on, and then we'll get into some deeper dives into some of these teams. First off, we knew
The Big 12 is going to have 3 of the top 8 teams according to their seeds, right? So Arizona's a 1 seed out west. That was to be expected. Iowa State's a 2 seed in the Midwest. That was to be expected. Houston is the 2 seed in the South. And those 3 teams have been top tier in the Big 12 all season long, right? We could have predicted back in December that those 3 teams were going to be on the 1 seed or the 2 line. And Arizona, man, what a season for them. Big 12 regular season champs and Big 12 tournament champs. So incredible stuff there from the Arizona Wildcats, finishing the season 32-2 and knocking off Houston in the Big 12 title game 79-74. Also beat Iowa State 82-80. So they've been battle tested and have continued to shine. They got the 1 seed out west. So that's the 3 top teams in the Big 12. And then in the East region, that's the most Big 12 teams that are represented. There's 3 teams in the East. You got Kansas at the 4, TCU at the 9 seed. This is the region with Duke, of course, as the 1, and then UCF as a 10 seed. And we'll round it out. Also out west with Arizona as the 1 is BYU at the 6. And in the Midwest with Iowa State, where they're the 2, you got Texas Tech as a 5 seed. Obviously, a major injury there with JT Top, and Christian Anderson was banged up. He's going to play in March Madness. The report came out on over the weekend. So there you have it. That's your 8 teams, and we'll take it. Well, simply put, just so I'm not like going everywhere all at once and having you super confused if you're not already. We'll take it one region at a time, and we'll start with that 1 seed out west and Arizona, and just give you some things. Give you some things there. We'll get to that just in a moment. So stick around here for Mountaineer Moment. All right, guys, so we're going to again start out west with a little bit of a preview of the teams out there. So Arizona, obviously, the 1 seed, sensational year. Again, mentioned their record a moment ago, 32-2, and their losses came at Kansas, 82-78, and a 3-point loss to Texas Tech at home. Those were consecutive games, right? It was a rough week for Arizona. Just as far as the loss column, but they lost 2 games to 2 really good teams by 7 total points. And other than that, perfect record, right? I mean, unbelievable season, and not really even like a bad week. They just lost 2 games in 1 week, and since then they've reeled off win after win after win, right? So started the season, unbelievable with a 23-0 record before dropping those 2. And then obviously since then, have reeled off 9 straight victories to get to where they're at right now. Unbelievable season from the Wildcats. They have so much depth. Big 12 Player of the Year, whether you like it or not, he was, in fact, the Big 12 Player of the Year in this conference, was Jaden Bradley. Koa Pete, obviously, really, really good. Braden Burry's leading the way with 15.9 points. Koa Pete, 13. Jaden Bradley, 13. Krivos, 10 points. They got a walk off the bench. They got Del Orso, who went nuclear in that game against Iowa State. That was a really good contest in the Big 12 semifinal. This team is just good. Incredible depth. They had every right to be the number 1 overall seed, obviously. And the record speaks for itself in a loaded Big 12 conference. And again, you mentioned who they just beat down the stretch, right? So since they lost those 2 games, and in those, 9 straight that they won, they knocked off 6 ranked opponents, right? Like, let that get through. It's not like they started Big 12 play with a tough schedule, and then they ended the Big 12 slate with a cakewalk and just reeled off easy victories. No, in that stretch, since their 2 losses, they beat Houston twice, they beat Kansas, they beat Iowa State twice. Like, this team is legit, and a legit title contender. That's not a surprise, obviously, to anybody. Their first-round matchup, interestingly enough, is with LIU, Long Island, and that's only interesting because I currently live on Long Island. Mountaineer for life, but I live on Long Island now. But yeah, kind of just a funny thing there. Don't know much about LIU. Haven't been to that campus. I watched some of their semifinal game in their conference, and it is a high school gym. You remember some teams that have pulled off some great upsets in March Madness. look like they're playing in a high school. LIU is one of those, but I don't give them any shot against the Wildcats. Wildcats are too good. A potential second-round matchup, though, with Arizona to keep an eye on, Villanova or Utah State. I've seen some reports, and I agree with them. Utah State might be, one of the more underseeded teams in the tournament on the 9 line. Disrespect to that conference, and so Utah State or Villanova, obviously, every time you get a 1 versus an 8 or a 9, it's a potential upset there. But I don't know that Arizona will fumble against those two teams. Again, their talent level is great. Potential Sweet 16 things to keep an eye on. We're not going to predict the whole bracket, but just some matchups to possibly unfold for these Big 12 teams. Arizona will have maybe Wisconsin as a 5 and Arizona at the 4. Both of those teams have great guard play, guards that can really, really fill it up. So keep an eye on that potentially. And then out west, the 2 seed and the 3 seed in the Arizona region are Purdue and Gonzaga. So could you match up with one of those teams in the Elite Eight? Certainly. Would I absolutely give the edge to Arizona to get to the Final Four? Heck yeah. This isn't Big 12 bias. This is just a team that's proved it all season long that they are really good. Lost 2 games in 1 week to ranked teams by 7 points. And they're in the Big 12. No need to say anything more. Moving on from Arizona, again, the 6 seed out west is BYU. We know the deal there. A.J. DeBonsa, potential number 1 pick in the NBA draft. They await the 11 seed Texas or NC State, the winner of that game. I believe that game's on Tuesday, and BYU awaits the winner of that. Obviously, 2 teams, one from the SEC, one from the ACC, that BYU could match up with. DeBonsa, now that they've gotten some games under their belt without Richie Saunders, with his ACL injury, a heartbreaking thing to see that. But since he went down, they went through a rough stretch. But after they lost 3 straight, they did get back in the win column to end the regular season with a win at home against number 10 at the time, Texas Tech. They beat K-State, then they beat our Mountaineers before falling to Houston in the quarterfinals in the Big 12, 73-66. A.J. DeBonsa and Rob Wright are the story here, and I don't think any team in the bracket would want to match up with those 2 guys. Unbelievable talents, unbelievable scorers, and A.J. DeBonsa, how much does he want it? Could he absolutely, positively make a run to the Elite Eight and beyond? Yes, he could lead this team to do that. I don't think they're going to go down without him putting up a massive fight. We're talking 30-point performances, 40-point performances. He is certainly capable of it, so that is certainly a team to keep an eye on. The potential second-round matchup for them if they get past Texas or NC State, which is not a given. But they got potentially Gonzaga, and again mentioned Purdue, Missouri, Miami are also in that part of the bracket. Could we see a Big 12 matchup in the Elite Eight in the West? I think we could. I think we absolutely could between Arizona and BYU. Am I calling that on my bracket? I don't know yet. But it's possible, and I would say, just looking around at the other teams we've talked about in the Big 12, if you're going to say, again, there's 8 teams, 3 in the East, 2 in the West, and 2 in the Midwest, so you can get matchups in the Elite Eight between Big 12 teams, and if there's one that's most likely out of those regions, it's certainly in the West with Arizona and BYU. Texas Tech, Iowa State, you could certainly make an argument. Texas Tech could have a hard time with Alabama and Michigan. Certainly really, really good. And without JT Toppin, that hurts them a lot. So we'll move to that region. Texas Tech's the 5 seed. They got an Akron team that's going to be a fun one to watch. That might be a trendy 12-5 upset pick. Certainly, there's potential for all of these 12-5s. It's March Madness. And Texas Tech, a team obviously really, really talented, and Grant McCaslin's done a tremendous job with them, especially post JT Toppin injury. They got a sour taste in their mouth from, I guess it was Elite Eight matchup that they lost to Florida last season, man, that they really gave away. And, obviously we know what Florida went on to do to win the national title, but keep an eye on Texas Tech. They're certainly capable of making a run. Do I think that they have legit Final Four potential without JT Toppin? I don't think so, because, again, it's a difficult path that they're in with a 5 seed, potential Bama in the second round, potential Michigan in the Sweet 16. Going to be tough. Going to be tough without Toppin. Had they had Toppin, what seed line do I think they would have been on? I don't know, right? Because they were ranked number 10 in the country the last week of the regular season, and how'd they end up with a 5 seed? Is that because of JT Toppin's injury? Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit for a Texas Tech team, that they finished 22-10 and 12-6. So I don't think they would have got much higher than a 4, but they land on the 5 line and a first round matchup with Akron, which could be a potential upset pick there. Iowa State in the Midwest. Again, Iowa State, the 2 seed, with a matchup with Tennessee State first, and a potential second round matchup with the Kentucky Wildcats Santa Clara 7-10 game. That's might be my favorite 7-10 game on the bracket. Really intrigued by that matchup and the potential threats that they could pose to Iowa State in the second round. The 3 seed is Virginia, and Tennessee's the 6 out there. So Iowa State very well could get to a Final Four. I fully believe that, right? Again, as far as those 3 teams, big dogs atop the conference standings in the Big 12 all season, Arizona, Iowa State, and Houston, all 3 of those teams have potential to reach a Final Four. And, I might just take Iowa State out of that region too. So moving on to the South region real quick. Houston, the only team in the South, and by the looks of it, first glance at Houston's potential path, I think they got an easier path than some of these other 2 seeds. I would say they might have an easier path than Iowa State as well. First round matchup with Idaho. I mean, shout out to Idaho, man, for reaching the NCAA tournament. St. Mary's, Texas A&M. St. Mary's is the 7 seed with Houston. I mean, that game, if that happens in the second round, the over-under bet line for that's going to be real low, and it might be a game that's the first of 45 with the way these teams play defense. I will say with Houston, not quite the defensive threat that they've been in the years past, but I think they might got a better offense. Kingston Fleming's freshman is unbelievable. He's one of my favorite players in the country. So if you're a Houston fan, man, you got a squad this year with lots of NBA talent on that roster, and a potential collision course with Florida and Houston in the Elite Eight would be a massive, massive game. And Houston, it's like, man, they didn't fall off this year. It's it's crazy to think it's like, oh, this isn't the Houston team we've seen. They went 28-6 and went 14-4 in the Big 12. So they are very much legit and very, very, very good, this Houston team, who, again, 28-6, national runner-up a season ago, but here in 2026 looking to move on. So they went 19-1 in the Big 12 last season, and it's like, man, they took a step back. They went 14-4. That's what happens when you got this team that you got in Houston year in, year out. That 28-6 and 14-4 is like, man, they took a step backward. Kind of funny, but they got Final Four potential. They got national championship potential. Absolutely, positively. They're the only team in the South, and we'll close it out with the East region. You got Kansas at the 4. Appropriate seed line for them. Could be a really dandy of a matchup. Might be the most viewed second round matchup if Kansas takes care of Cal Baptist and St. John's takes care of Northern Iowa. St. John's, man, a lot of people feeling that they were underseeded as well as a 5. But Kansas, St. John's, 4-5 matchup in the second round, I'll be tuned into that one. That could be interesting. And then the 1 seed out there is Duke. And so, if you're a fan of Kansas or if you're a fan of St. John's, that could be a tough team to take deep because of that, because those are 2 teams with, let's just say it, higher aspirations than getting to even a Sweet 16. Will it be a very tough matchup for those teams to take down Duke? Yes. But they can do it, right? It's Kansas or St. John. So that matchup's intriguing for that reason, right? Kansas wouldn't be a team, and the Darren Peterson stuff, incredible talent, but just kind of weird thing all season long with him. subbing out of games, playing less minutes, and yeah. Could Darren Peterson take off and this team go to a Final Four? Yeah. But with their path, with a potential crash with St. John's, and then, Duke, and then you got UConn in that region. Like, that's tough, man. So I don't think Kansas got that Final Four in them. But I'd say the thing for Kansas, keep an eye on that second-round matchup and keep an eye on how much Darren Peterson plays in the NCAA tournament. TCU's the 9 seed matched up with Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State, a team that West Virginia saw. Shout out to the Mountaineers back in the non-conference slate double overtime game that they lost. But, Ohio State, pretty good season. They went from really bubble conversation and went all the way to that 8 seed, based on how they were able to finish the season, led by Bruce Thornton, unbelievable 20 points per game this season. But they won 4 out of 5 down the stretch, including knocking off Purdue. That really cemented themselves into that conversation. They fell to Michigan in the Big Ten quarterfinal, 71-67 did the Buckeyes. But that's going to be a tough matchup for TCU. 2 teams, again, both of them. Not that an 8-9 is like super far from the bubble, but not long ago it was like those teams might be on the outside looking in. And now they meet in the first round, and a potential date with Duke awaits them in the second round. Do I see either of those teams getting past Duke? No. Could anything happen? Yeah. But even with how hot TCU has been down the stretch, man, overall just very inconsistent, and so I don't see them getting out of that first weekend. And last but not least in the Big 12, the 10 seed UCF Knights, a team West Virginia knocked off twice, by the way. Just had to throw that in there if you're a UCF fan. But they match up with UCLA in the first round, Mick Cronin and them, who again, 2 teams, as far as I know, I'd have to look at UCLA real quick, but seemed like for a while there they were on the outside looking in, and they finished the season stronger. Yeah, they did. I was right. They knocked off Illinois. They beat Nebraska by 20. They beat Michigan State, right? And then they fell to Purdue by 7 in the Big Ten tournament. But 2 teams that, based on that, are trending in opposite directions. And so UCF and UCLA. UCF has literally 3 top 10 wins since, when was that game? Since in the last month. Since February 21st, when they knocked off Illinois. 3 top 10 wins. That got them in the tournament. They were on the outside looking in prior to that. Fell to Michigan by 30 not long before they got hot. But they've proved themselves down the stretch, whereas UCF has been trending downwards. And so that's all I need right there as far as, if I'm telling you what I'm going to do on my bracket, I'm most likely taking UCLA because they're a team trending up. UCF's a team trending down, despite the scoring potential that UCF has and what they present. But all right, that's all 8 teams in a nutshell in the Big 12, and my thoughts on the ceiling a little bit for these teams. I'll get into that right now as we round out this episode. But again, kind of mention it. TCU, UCF, not teams that I see getting past the first weekend. Kansas, not a team that I see getting past Duke or maybe even St. John's. Houston, they're a contender. Legit contender to cut down the nets. Bad taste in their mouth from last season, a game that they probably think they could have won too against Florida, but they didn't. And but I don't hate their path at all. Again, potential matchup: Florida, Houston, the Elite Eight. I said that earlier, but just hitting me now. That's a rematch of the national title and a potential spot in the Final Four on the line. So that would be a great contest. Houston's ceiling. The ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan said. They got it. They can make a run. Arizona, 1 seed. In my eyes, most of the season, the best team in the country. A potential matchup with Duke would be unbelievable in the championship game. But Arizona, absolutely, ceiling is the roof. They can cut down the nets in Indianapolis. BYU. So of the remaining 3, BYU, Texas Tech, Iowa State. BYU kind of is the not trendy thing, but it's kind of the interesting, appealing, intriguing one for me for 2 reasons. 1, A.J. DeMonta, and 2, Rob Wright. A 1-2 punch like that, and if their defense can be good, and sometimes it's not, but they're a team that could make a run. So keep an eye on AJ DeBonsa and BYU. Of any team like that, I think could, I guess the best way to say it would be like outkick their coverage a little bit, like do something that they're not supposed to do. Go a little further than you might think. In my eyes, it would be BYU. And I want to say Texas Tech, but man, it sucks that JT Toppin went down. It really does. So for that reason, I'd give the nod to BYU to be a team that could go on a run. Iowa State's the 2 seed in the Midwest again, and when their shots are falling, they're as good as anybody. That game that they had in the semifinal against Arizona was unbelievable. I tweeted, on X on Mountaineer Moment, I said, this is the most unbelievable shot making I've ever seen in a college game to end the game. The last few minutes, shot for shot, unbelievable. And then Jaden Bradley buries the game winner on a tough shot. Like, it was a fitting end to that game. But Iowa State showed me some things in that game, and they showed me some things all year. They can hang with anybody when their shots are falling. They are near impossible to beat, and they've got a squad. So they're really good. Do I think they can cut down the nets? I do. Would I would I be more inclined to give that nod to Arizona or Houston over them? I would. Houston, Arizona, 1A, 1B, and then the next potential to make a really, really long run, get to a Final Four and beyond is Iowa State. And appropriately so, right? 1s and 2 seeds. I get that. It's not a shock to anybody. But Iowa State's a team that's, kind of been here before, 2s, 3 seeds over the last, several years. Not every year, but, in recent memory, when you go back to even, 2017, 2018, I don't know what years they were really good, but they've had teams that were really good over the, last decade plus and haven't reached a Final Four, right? They haven't done it yet. Could this be the team that does it? Yeah, they absolutely could. So keep an eye on them. Potential date with Michigan in the Elite Eight, though, that's that's tough. But it's not like Iowa State hasn't seen tough teams and hasn't beaten tough teams. They have. But we'll keep an eye on the Cyclones. But again, this is Mountaineer Moment. We cover West Virginia football and basketball, but wanted to get on here and kind of celebrate the Big 12, the 8 teams that are in the field. March Madness is the best time of year, man. So I just wanted to give a little perspective and my thoughts on all 8 teams and who can make a run, who's a sleeper, and who I don't see getting past that first weekend. But if you liked what you heard, or at least you thought the quality was all right, maybe I said something about your team that you didn't like, but we'd appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. We're 167 episodes in to Mountaineer Moment. We cover West Virginia football and basketball. This thing started right at the beginning of football season in 2025, back in August, and we're 167 episodes in at this point, not even 7 months down. So we're plugging away at this thing. Super appreciative of the feedback. And then again, don't forget, we got t-shirts available. So if you're one of the first 5 people to send an email to mountaineermoment@gmail.com, I'm going to send you a t-shirt for just $10. And if you're not one of the first 5, I'm going to let you know how you can get one still. So we'll see you next time on Mountaineer Moment. Let's go Mountaineers. Let's go Big 12. Let's go March Madness. Best time of the year. Hope you enjoy it. We'll see you next time.